each actions and each videos that he took and each of his contents are full of crimes, of course. Yeah.
We have a flood of updates regarding Johnny Somali. This story just keeps getting more intense. There's fresh information on when his trial is set to begin, the charges stacked against him, and where things currently stand in the legal process. All of these details come courtesy of the channel Legal Mindset, so a massive shout out to them for doing the heavy lifting on this case. Make sure to check out their channel, link in the description. Let's dive right into these updates. Legal Mindset recently made a visit to the Maipo police station and uncovered a treasure trove of information about Johnny Somali's case. First up, the burning question: when will his first court appearance take place? Well, it turns out that just last Monday, Johnny updated his address and officially requested a public defender. This move signals his preparation for the trial ahead. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. The prosecutor assigned to his trial is a legal powerhouse, boasting a staggering win ratio of over 90% in cases related to obstruction of business. This doesn't bode well for Johnny Somali, as such a high success rate suggests the odds are stacked against him. As for the timeline, the first hearing is set for December 2024, likely just before the holidays. Yes, that means we'll soon see him standing in a courtroom to face the music. A lot of speculation has been swirling about the potential length of his sentence. Some sources have thrown out wildly different numbers: 10 years, 22 years, or even more extreme figures like 70 or 1,000 years. It's clear that there's a lot of confusion out there, but the real story is starting to take shape. With such a high-stakes prosecutor on the case and the weight of these charges, Johnny's future is looking more uncertain than ever. Now let's break this down and dig into the numbers, thanks to the meticulous research from Legal Mindset, to figure out the real prison time Johnny Somali could be facing, both for the charges already filed and any additional charges that might come his way. But before we can unravel those details, it's crucial to understand how the South Korean justice system operates and what its step-by-step process entails. Spoiler, it's far more complex than you might think. Legal Mindset created a detailed graph to clarify the process, and it's incredibly helpful in understanding what's happening behind the scenes. Let's start with step 1, the criminal complaint. This is where it all begins. Authorities must collect every essential detail about the defendant: passport information, date of birth, current location, and more. The complaint has to be flawlessly formatted before it can move forward in the system. Missing even a minor detail could delay the entire case. Step 2 involves the police investigation, which typically lasts about 2 to 4 months. During this phase, the police conduct thorough interviews with both the defendant and any witnesses involved. They gather and analyze all available evidence piece by piece. Then comes the critical decision: will they drop the case or hand it over to a prosecutor? If they choose the latter, they provide a recommendation for indictment, which essentially pushes the case into the next, more intense phase. Stage 3 brings us to the prosecutor investigation, which also lasts roughly 2 to 4 months. Here's where things get even tougher. Prosecutors in South Korea are known for their rigor and thoroughness, often going beyond what the police uncover. They scrutinize every shred of evidence, cross-check every interview, and build a case with the goal of securing a conviction. If the police investigation is the appetizer, the prosecutor's phase is the main course, and they don't hold back. Cases in South Korea are rarely dropped once they reach this stage. Prosecutors are relentless. They don't just stop at the initial charges. They conduct tougher, more probing interviews with defendants and frequently attempt to aggravate the charges, stacking on additional offenses to ensure harsher penalties. It's a rigorous process designed to make convictions stick. Step 4 is the trial phase, which is an entirely public affair. This stage includes open arguments, public hearings, and sessions typically spaced out over a 2-month period. Then comes the pivotal moment: verdict day. In South Korea, the verdict and sentencing are often announced on the same day, leaving no room for suspense. Step 5 follows: post-sentencing restrictions. A convicted individual cannot leave the country while serving their sentence, and punishments can range from hefty fines to forced labor if fines cannot be paid, imprisonment, or even a suspended sentence under certain circumstances. For those convicted of multiple crimes, things can get significantly worse. Penalties compound, with harsher sentences likely. Considering the timeline, the trial phase itself takes around 7 months, which means Johnny Somali is looking at being stuck in South Korea for the foreseeable future. If all goes as expected, by June, he will likely begin serving a prison sentence. The outlook is undeniably grim for him. Now that we've grasped the ins and outs of the South Korean justice system, let's examine Johnny Somali's current and potential charges. The key charge he's facing is obstruction of business, which has already reached stage 4. He's been formally indicted for at least 1 count, with another count still pending review. The potential penalty for this charge is severe, up to 5 years of imprisonment and a fine of 15 million Korean won, equivalent to roughly $11,000 per count. This means even a single conviction could carry life-altering consequences. Now, let's delve into the deepfake image charges, a disturbing element of this case that's currently in stage 2, the police investigation phase. There are at least 3 counts under review, though there could be more. The potential penalty per count is significant, up to 5 years in prison and fines reaching 50 million Korean won, approximately $40,000. If the images are classified as obscene, the prison sentence could be even longer, and additional charges related to digital harassment may also be applied. This opens the door for a harsher legal battle for Johnny Somali. Next up are the assault charges, which are also in stage 2. Police are actively investigating at least 1 count, with the possibility of more coming to light. For simple assault, the penalty can include up to 2 years of imprisonment and a fine of 5 million Korean won, roughly $4,000. However, if the charge is elevated to aggravated assault, which requires either a weapon or evidence of injury, the stakes rise dramatically. Aggravated assault carries a potential sentence of up to 10 years in prison, making it a much more severe accusation. There's also a deeply troubling charge of obscene threats directed at minors, currently being investigated by the police in stage 2. This involves at least 1 count, with a possible prison sentence of up to 3 years if convicted. Additionally, Johnny faces a public indecency charge, also in stage 2 of the police investigation. This count carries a lighter penalty of up to 1 year in prison, but it adds another layer to his growing legal troubles. Before we move forward with more charges, it's important to highlight that the majority of these allegations are still in the investigative phase. Most remain at stage 2, meaning they have yet to progress to prosecution or trial. While this might suggest some uncertainty, the sheer volume and severity of the allegations paint a bleak picture of what lies ahead for Johnny Somali if the investigations confirm the accusations. Investigations in South Korea typically take about 2 to 4 months, but it's clear that the government felt immense pressure to act swiftly in Johnny Somali's obstruction case. In this instance, it only took about 2 weeks from the date of the incident to formally charge him. This accelerated pace likely stems from the public outcry and his controversial online presence, which put a glaring spotlight on the case. Authorities seem determined to move things along quickly, at least for this specific charge. That said, it's essential to manage expectations and remain patient. Legal processes, especially those involving multiple charges, take time. While Johnny has been formally charged with obstruction of business, many of the other allegations are still under investigation. The wheels of justice may turn slowly, but rest assured, they are moving. It's a matter of letting the process play out as investigators gather evidence and prepare their cases. Now, let's shift to some of the other potential charges Johnny Somali could be facing. Among them is illegally accessing obscene material, which carries a potential sentence of 1 year in prison. There's also a violation of railroad safety laws, punishable by up to 2 years behind bars. Then there's incitement to violence, which could land him up to 3 years in prison, and even a possible violation of anti-terrorism laws, which comes with a maximum penalty of 7 years. Adding to the list are charges filed by South Korean YouTubers. Now, the exact process by which private citizens can press charges in South Korea is unclear, but it appears to be a legitimate course of action. Among these charges, blackmail could lead to up to 10 years of imprisonment, while insults carry a lighter penalty of up to 1 year. The deepfake-related charges, already discussed, could result in 5 or more years, while obscene threats to minors could add another 3 years to his potential sentence. Other charges, like obstruction of business, carry penalties of up to 5 years, while supporting the DPRK, North Korea, could result in up to 7 years behind bars. With such a wide array of allegations piling up, the cumulative potential sentences paint a dire picture. Every step of the investigation seems to uncover more legal issues, creating an increasingly complicated and severe situation for Johnny Somali. If you tally up all the potential sentences Johnny Somali could face, assuming the maximum penalty for every charge, which rarely happens, you could throw out extreme numbers like 248 years, 722 years, or even more. However, let's ground this in reality. As of now, for the charges he has already been indicted for, he's looking at a maximum of 5 years in prison. That said, this number is almost certain to change soon. According to YouTuber Legal Mindset, more charges are expected to be filed as early as next week. This could significantly increase the prison time Johnny may face if convicted. Adding another twist to this unfolding drama, one of Johnny Somali's top moderators has reportedly decided to switch sides. This individual is now willing to do an interview with Legal Mindset, which is scheduled to take place tomorrow morning. This development could shed new light on Johnny's activities and provide additional evidence against him. If that's something you're curious about, you can bet I'll be sharing my perspective on it as soon as details emerge. In related news, Legal Mindset shared that he has received a staggering 7 privacy complaints, while I've received a few myself. Fortunately, YouTube has rejected all of them so far. It seems Johnny Somali may now try a different tactic, potentially filing copyright strikes or pursuing other methods to silence criticism. However, these strategies rarely succeed, especially when aimed at someone who knows the law inside and out, like Legal Mindset. Trying to intimidate or outmaneuver a lawyer in this way is not just a poor strategy, it's a losing game. The story continues to evolve, with new layers and complications surfacing almost daily. While Johnny Somali's legal troubles are already piling up, his attempts to counterattack against critics seem to be failing miserably, only adding more fuel to the fire. Before wrapping up, let's take a moment to acknowledge just how fast Johnny Somali's ship is sinking. It's almost unbelievable. Not only is one of his top moderators set to do an interview with Legal Mindset tomorrow, but now another moderator has reportedly jumped ship and is leaking sensitive information. These betrayals are like nails in the coffin for Johnny's already crumbling situation. The fallout is escalating quickly, and there's no sign of a lifeline in sight for him. What makes things even worse for Johnny is that he's lost his ability to harass and exploit people for money, one of the key ways he sustained himself. With the South Korean government closely monitoring his actions, his options are dwindling rapidly. He's cornered, and the reality is harsh. He's facing a long wait of 7 months before his trial concludes. But those 7 months won't bring freedom. Instead, they'll lead him straight into prison. His downward spiral is speeding up, and there doesn't seem to be any way for him to reverse course. If you're looking for more updates on this case, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm committed to bringing you the latest, most relevant information as it happens. And if you're interested in other wild stories, check out my video on what happens when Kick streamers get completely owned by angry citizens. It's one you won't want to miss. Click the link on the screen now to watch, and I'll see you in the next update.